Hey everyone, this is Razorblade Mango here, and I just wanted to put up my, quick first impressions review of BioShock Infinite Burial at Sea Part 2, which is the recent and final piece of BioShock Infinite content that we're going to get. And probably the last time Irrational is going to have a hand in anything BioShock related, which kind of makes this whole thing like a big bittersweet affair. What I want to talk about first is that I never got a chance to do an episode 1 review because I didn't buy it at the time it was released, and I honestly didn't want to buy it until they kind of released, maybe had a deal that, because I could honestly care less about Clash in the Clouds. And I tried that out. It just didn't impress me at all. But I was waiting to see if Burial at Sea's parts 1 and 2 were going to be in a collection, and eventually, I broke down because I to avoid the risk, of it getting spoiled for me. I wanted to see what episode 1 had to offer, and I thought it was very disappointing. It was gorgeous visually. Of course, it's BioShock. The atmosphere is amazing. Art direction is superb. Of course, the voices, Troy Baker and I keep forgetting whoever voices Elizabeth. They do fantastic jobs. But the campaign was just boring and uninspired, and it was just one giant fetch quest. It was like, go here, get that. Oh, there's another roadblock. Go here and do that. Go here and do that. Get that for me. Get that. And it was 2 hours, and it made those 2 hours feel like an enormity long length of time, which is why I did not really care for part 1 all that much. But I am happy to report that part 2 is a vast improvement. It easily outdoes part 1, and even comes a little bit close to matching the quality of Infinite itself, which is not an easy thing to do. But what is this story about? What is episode 2 about? Well, first of all, if you haven't played, let's just say this, if you haven't played BioShock, or BioShock Infinite, or Burial at Sea Part 1, and you want to remain, out in the dark about what happens in the story, don't watch this video. Because there's going to be no major spoilers for part 2, but there's going to be major spoilers for the first BioShock, BioShock Infinite, and Burial at Sea Part 1. So you have been warned. This is spoilers for those games. So part 2 takes place moments after the ending of the first one, where Booker/Comstock is killed by the Big Daddy, and Elizabeth is knocked unconscious. And I gotta say, right off the bat, this game floored me, because it opens with something that I dare not spoil what it is, but it's maybe the most gorgeous environment, I've ever seen in a video game. In these games, when I first played BioShock Infinite, I stood there, I looked around, I just kind of let myself, just wash myself in the environment, because it was just an amazing sight to see. Columbia was, oh my god, amazing. And this one level at the beginning of Burial at Sea Part 2 trumps everything that BioShock Infinite did. And it's one environment. Not a very big one either, but the level of detail, the level of attention to the music and the atmosphere, and oh my god, it was just astonishing. It blew me away. And I literally, I know this is going to sound really, really like I'm a pansy, but I was nearly moved to tears by the beginning of this game. Wow, it was so good. But also, This story takes place. Elizabeth strikes up a deal with Atlas slash Frank Fontaine from the first original BioShock, and she's pretty much given a task to go out and do his dirty work, go do his deeds, if she wants to save Sarah, which is the child that Elizabeth sold off. So the child that she sold off. So she does and does that, and that's pretty much the entire. And this was actually pretty lengthy. This is way longer than I expected it to be, which is a good thing, because for $14.99 for the stuff that we got for part one, it did not feel like it warranted $14.99. Maybe $5. That's kind of about it. It really did not feel like anything worthy of being $15. But this one definitely is. And it's quite lengthy, like I said. I completed it in around 3, 4, 5 hours, which is pretty cool. And it felt satisfying. It was fully enveloping. I mean, there were moments where I was on the edge of my seat, where I was like just confused out of my mind what's going on, like in a good way, in that good BioShock way. I did have those really cool revelations that I expect from a BioShock game, especially with Ken Levine at the front. That was really awesome. So the biggest compliment I can give this is that I did get the full BioShock experience with this game. It felt like BioShock, where part one, it had the moments where it's like, yes, this is definitely a BioShock game, but it didn't feel fully like a BioShock game. You know what I mean, guys? Like, you get that feeling, like when you're playing a certain kind of game, or you're watching a sort of kind of movie that has an established mood to it, or a feel, is that this felt like a BioShock game. The first one, part one, did not. I mean, sure, it had like the elements, like the shocking revelations and the gorgeous scenery, but it felt hollow. It lacked a heart, and this one doesn't. It is right there, and it goes through all the motions in the right way, and it's gonna leave people scratching their heads. And then from what I've seen on like message boards and YouTube comments, is that the ending to this game is going to divide some people, where they're going to feel like they were disappointed by the whole thing, and I'm with you halfway. If part 2 had been like part 1, I would honestly say this whole DLC would have been a major disappointment. But thankfully part 2 redeems the whole thing. Maybe not the whole thing, but it redeems the Burial at Sea moniker. Also, I like that this part is focused on Elizabeth, because honestly, even in Infinite, I find her a much more interesting character than Booker. And I really like Booker DeWitt. But, his time has come and gone, because he's fucking dead in this game. So yes, we have to put this on Elizabeth's side, and she is just as compelling in this as she was in Infinite, as she was in Burial at Sea Part 1. So I was really happy that, and I'm so sorry, I keep forgetting this girl's name. Whoever does the voice for Elizabeth, she's got to win an award for something. Seriously, can we not have a respectable gaming award show? Fuck you, Spike VGX. But can we not have a big ass award show that'd be nice, and like we could actually bring this girl on stage and award her, because she does a fantastic job as Elizabeth. She gives a much better performance in this movie than almost all the Oscar nominations for acting this year. She is, oh my god, it's amazing, her performance. I don't know how she does it. I don't know how she can conjure up all these kinds of layers of depth and emotion with just her voice, but she does an astounding job. So, wow, she's fantastic. And I like that it actually felt like I was playing a different character. And Ken Levine said that he did not want Elizabeth to feel like another Booker DeWitt, where you can basically go into a room, shoot everybody, shoot plastids all over the place, and you'd be alright. But No, Elizabeth feels like her own character, and that is really brought out by that she cannot take a lot of damage. Like in this game, you get hit 3 times by like an enemy, you're dead. I mean, your ass is dead. But weirdly enough, having this focus more on stealth allowed me to kind of soak up the scenery more. It allowed me to move at a slower pace. Because in part 1, I felt like I was just running through these empty hallways, just shooting everybody, and not really being able to take in the environment around me. And that's all changed in this one because it's slower, because you have to be stealthy. And it's fun. It's fun to be stealthy. It's like The Last of Us, where I really felt that tension in battle, where it's like I had to be careful about conserving what ammo I had. I had to choose which darts to use, because, by the way, your weapon of choice is a crossbow. You can equip it with different kinds of darts. Like there's a knockout dart, there's a dart that fires an alarm that you to distract enemies with. There's one that fires some sleeping gas. And they're all implemented really well. The animations for them are all good. Even though sometimes there's a mechanic in this game where you can knock out an enemy with your skyhook if they don't see you. One of the complaints I have about this is that sometimes whenever I knocked out an enemy, they kind of fell forward and they just hung there in midair. Like, I mean, it just looks silly, and especially in 2014. There's really no excuse for that anymore. I mean, when I knock out a corpse, I want it to like slouch against a wall. I want it to have really good physics. I mean, this stuff where it like knocks somebody over in the head and they just fall forward and just hang there in midair. It looks lame, and it kind of takes me out of the game, which should not happen. So that is something Irrational should definitely be working on if they ever decide to come back to this universe, which I hope to God they make another BioShock game in the future. I don't want 2K handling this at all without Irrational, at least without Ken Levine involved, because this is his child. This whole series is his child, and without him, I mean, look what happened with BioShock 2, where that game was just mediocre because it didn't feel like it felt like just a rehash of the first game. And, man, I just hope Ken Levine comes back with another one. What's another thing I can talk about with this game? Oh my God, yeah. With the ending, I was talking about the ending before. It's going to divide people. And like I'm already seeing on message boards and the YouTube comments, people are divided on this ending. And I personally really liked it. I thought it was great. I mean, not like anywhere near as mind-blowing as the ending to BioShock Infinite was, which is like goes down in my book as like one of the very greatest endings of all time to like anything. I mean, the first time I saw that ending, oh my God, it like blew my fucking mind. I could not believe that just everything from the way that Elizabeth lost her finger to the way Booker is Comstock. Oh my God, it was so amazing. And the way they delivered the twist is that it didn't feel boring or confusing. They all explained it in a way that felt good. And it was clean, it was solid, and it got its points down at note for note perfectly. And it does the same thing here, where the ending could have been this. Yeah, it does kind of have those moments where you're kind of going, huh? And you feel like you want Ken Levine in the room kind of explaining it to you. Like, dude, what the fuck is going on? Like, please, pause the game and explain it to me. Is that they do a good job with this. And they do make it overly confusing and more complicated and weird than it needs to be. But the ending hits the right note. And it is very satisfying for a game like this. Just in a different way than the ending of Infinite, which will not be topped, and probably never, until Ken Levine makes another game that isn't probably BioShock, but you know, he's a brilliant writer. He'll think of something mind blowing with the new venture he's doing with Irrational. But as the last piece of content for BioShock ever coming from Ken Levine, I'd say it's satisfying. Maybe, honestly, buy the season pass. I know, like, a lot of games have this annoying habit of going, oh, you gotta buy the season pass for all this, buy that season pass. No, this is one of those games that, just for Burial at Sea Part 2, honestly, why not? Or just don't bother with Clash of Clouds. Wait for this to come out when, like, a cheap discount package bundled with Part 1, so you could play both parts and not have to spend money on Clash in the Clouds, which is pretty lame. But I am kind of disappointed with the way, even though, don't get me wrong, I think Part 2 is splendid. It's a terrific way to end the Infinite saga. But a part of me wishes they had done a different... I don't know how, I don't know in what way they could have done this, but I kind of wish they had done something different with the DLC, because when it was announced, especially like with Clash in the Clouds, I mean, I hate to keep harping on Clash in the Clouds, but come on, guys, that was a huge cash grab. That was just a copy and paste DLC that really felt just uninspired, and lacked any real effort in it. But if you remember the very first trailer that ever came out for BioShock Infinite, it was that where you had Booker going after Saltonstall, like the guy that like weirdly morphed, and he was a political figure, and you don't see him in Infinite, but you see his scalp pegged against a wall by Fitzroy, who that demo of the game, it was the very first gameplay demo of it, that felt like, I wish we had gotten, as much as I love BioShock Infinite, and I love the story in it, I wish we had gotten the game that was shown in that very first demo, because it felt otherworldly. It looked and felt like a game I had never seen before. Like something really revolutionary and cool. But they kind of took out all the elements from that and just made BioShock Infinite. And don't get me wrong, I love BioShock Infinite. But I wish... I just wish they had done that game instead. That would have been awesome. Like, because I know Elizabeth was supposed to have powers besides opening tears, and that she could actually, like, she could create lightning storms and throw, like, make stuff out of different items, like where she melted all these pots and pans together to form this fireball that she gave to Booker so he could throw at a handyman. That was cool. That level of interactivity looked awesome. And I wish the DLC had done something like that, where we actually had that gameplay. But we didn't. We got this instead. And while I am happy with this, yeah, a part of me just wishes we had gotten that game. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll put the link to the trailer below in the description. But because that looked awesome. That felt like a next gen game. And part of me, I didn't like the fact that there really was no consequence to using Elizabeth's actions, like her powers. Because it felt like I said, inconsequential. That was one of my main problems with BioShock Infinite. And it was like, every time she used her powers in that first demo, she she bled from her nose, like black bile came out of her nose, You could feel like it was physically taking a toll on this poor girl. And that would have provided another level of emotional connection to Elizabeth, where it's like there are points where you have to use her powers, even though you know that it's killing her to do them. But that would have been fascinating to have that moral conundrum there. And I'm not going to say, like, I wish they had changed the ending to BioShock Infinite. The ending to BioShock Infinite is perfect the way it is. Amazing. Mind-blowing. And you know what? I would definitely rather have one amazing ending than three equally good ones. Three equally different good ones. But I wish they had done that DLC, like the DLC like that. Where you even see that model of Elizabeth at the ending of the very last scene of BioShock Infinite. And it was, wow, it was awesome. So maybe Irrational can look at that, and with their next gen project coming out, I don't know when, like 4 or 5 years from now at the latest, is that they need to do something that feels next gen. Whether it's something new, whether it's BioShock again, which they're not going to do BioShock again. 2K has taken over BioShock. They're in charge of BioShock from now on. I wish them the best of luck, but it's not going to be as good. It's not going to be as good as the original. It's certainly not going to be as good as BioShock Infinite. But enough of my rambling. Overall, Burial at Sea Part 2, great way to end the Infinite Saga. I highly recommend you guys check it out. Not by itself, but when it becomes bundled with Episode 1 in a discounted bundle. So, anyway, guys, thank you for watching. If you like what you see, subscribe. If you played Burial at Sea Part 2, let me know what you thought of it. If you hated it, if you loved it, you hated the ending, loved the ending, just any part about it at all, let me know. So, anyway, guys, thank you for watching, and have a good one, guys.